high schooler turning 18. And taking this test to get all of his licenses and to crush this and to learn how to be an entrepreneur while he's in school, which is pretty awesome. So, will everyone join me in singing happy birthday to Tay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Taters. Happy birthday to you. So we're very excited. This is the first of many. Mark will be hopefully one of the next ones. And there's bananas and things to make sure everybody's got their brain juices flowing because we got a lot to do this morning. Okay, got my glasses.
Good morning. How is everybody doing today?
Here's your banana.
So, how pretty do our windows look?
Really good except for
The big old pterodactyl, you know.
The crows gave the crows a new target.
So, but like they're clean, they're nice. It's about 20 degrees cooler, which will be a very, very, very nice thing. So we're excited about that. Lots of good stuff going on. This morning, what we're going to do is we're going to spend about 45 minutes with everybody doing some stuff, and then the people doing securities are going to go back and kind of continue that, and then we'll continue our stuff. But I want to make sure we're gonna do some working and stuff. So I'll make sure anybody that needs paper, because we're gonna do a lot of writing and different things. Let me know. I'll give you a clipboard and some paper. Pens. Special winning attitude team.
Sweet.
One of our folks. So everyone have enough paper? Okay. So today we're going to spend. So one of the things that's going on, and I've had this conversation, but I wanna kind of walk everybody through so that they know where we are with this, right? So if you think about our business, right, we've got folks on our roster, and we go on the roster, right? Their job is to do their hours, their quizzes, and their exams. Well, we know that Tate, who's just starting his hours and getting things almost done, right? If he sets his alarm for 13 minutes on his phone, right, and then he goes back on his phone, he's able to keep it alive, right? And so if he's doing the hours and quizzes and he's got it on his phone and it's running through that, and all of a sudden his alarm goes off, he switches back to the Chrome and he wiggles it, it'll keep that alive. So the ability to make that a reality, we know that, right? The quiz study guide, we have, it's not very good. I'm almost done with a new one, so I'm gonna need your help today. So now, by the end of the weekend, each chapter will be its own PDF. There will be 4 to 5 pages with somewhere between 8, so there'll be 40 to 50 questions per quiz in each of the study guides. So someone who wants to go through with a control find function, so they'll literally be able to pull up the quiz, type a couple words in it, and then search it, and there's a really good chance that the study guide will produce the information necessary to help somebody through the quizzes. And then for the exams, we're almost done building the 3 class modules, right? So what does it take what kind of life insurance, how do annuities work, what are terms and definitions? Like, we've got a pretty good system in place, and we're building some during the week stuff. So someone's gonna come on a Saturday, they're gonna learn, they're gonna sit through it, they're gonna learn like about life insurance, and then during the week, on a Tuesday, they're gonna get an email on here's a crossword puzzle. The next one's gonna be here's a word search. And it's gonna be based on the information that they studied as a way to kind of get the definitions so that we can turn learning a little bit more into a game, and then we'll ultimately create prizes so that people come in. Because there's nothing more fun than sitting for a couple hours in a class, teaching someone how to do something, having them have to do things their whole week, and then walk back in and go, I didn't do anything. And so we want to, and that's, people are busy, and we've got that scenario where we want to encourage people to do that. That place is, right, so we've got this system in place. Does that make sense? So we put people through the roster, we're going to get them coded. When they pass their test, right, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get them coded. During that period of time, Sue's doing a great job right now working on POL and the F&A. We're going to run Saturday modules on folks that are able to practice inputting F&As. They're going to learn how that system works, partially because a lot of people haven't worked with computers, they haven't done a lot of planning tools, and so it can be overwhelming. So we're going to create an environment when people are, right, they're in the process of, right, the ability to get their quizzes, like to start practicing. If I do this, so there's a good understanding of that, right? They become a player, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to rookie camp, right? Their job is to go see their top 10, right? Help them make some money, help them start their support system, and help them develop their assets so that we've got some passive income in place. So you guys, we've got, and then what happens is they transition to entrepreneurial training camp, right? So we got the securities licenses. We're going to build our skills, right? And ultimately, we're going to build our baseline. Right, in 4 phases of this baseline. The first is we're going to introduce the fact we're an entrepreneur training camp, and we're going to talk about the fact that we're learning skills. The good news is we're going to be able to talk about the skill that we're actively working on. Does that make sense? Right? Phase 2 is the opportunity after a period of time, 5 or 6 weeks, we go back and have a conversation with somebody, and this is where a lot of people are going to be like, wow, you're still doing this, and this is where we get serious about the access gap, about the impact of what's going on. The ability to lean into with some passion about what's going on, because they've now, so we actually want them in this phase to be like, we want them to question the fact that we're still doing something. Man, I didn't think you could be doing that. Like, that's not an insult, that's music to your ears, because it allows us to create some strength, right? Phase 3 allows us to introduce the fact that we're teaching. Because, right, we understand that what can be learned can be mastered, what can be mastered can be taught, what can be taught can be learned, but they're all different skills. A lot of us walk in here and we have to learn how to learn. Some of us are still struggling with this. We're trying to master, but we haven't actually taken the time to learn how to learn, right? Once we learn, we've got to learn how to master, the repetition of it. And then we've got to learn how to teach. What's the most important skills? And so we're going to create that skill set. And then phase 4 of the baseline 30 is the opportunity for vision and impact, because now there's watching, you're growing, right? So we know kind of what it is we're building. Does that make sense? All right. So we understand kind of what these 2 phases, they're in place, we're going, right, in terms of this. Now the reality is, for this to work, there's a bunch of things that we need. One of them is the skills, but there's the single most important skill that we as a collective leadership team, because we're the alpha team in this room, right? This is the group of people that's leading this, that when the new phase comes in, they're going to turn to us and they're going to measure our urgency. They're going to measure our belief. They're going to measure our seriousness on these topics. Because if we're like, oh my God, this is really important, and then we don't do it, guess what it's not? It's not important, right? It's a really simple thing. And so the building block of everything we do is on one particular skill. In rookie camp, right, the 3 weeks that they're in rookie camp, there's going to be one major skill that we work on. Does anyone know what the first most important dedicated skill that we've got to integrate from an entrepreneurial standpoint, from an understanding standpoint? Does anyone know what we think, what we're going to spend 3 weeks on with someone like in training, like in rookie camp? They're going on appointments, and when they show up on Saturday, they're going to spend 1 hour to 2 hours on Saturday for 3 straight weeks on this particular skill. We're going to send them, we're going to give them resources during the week to be able to master this skill, because we need someone in the first 21 days of being licensed who have this skill incredibly wired in. Before they pivot to entrepreneur training camp, there is a skill that is fundamental that they have dialed in. Is there anyone in the room that's clear on what that skill might be? Getting why? Yeah. Can anyone explain to me why it's incredibly critical as a skill to have for us to get through rookie camp?
It's how you build on your other skills.
Entrepreneur Training Camp is built on why. And so what happens is, how hard is it for us to leverage any of these principles if we don't actually truly understand the tool that we're going to be building everything on? That make sense? So the challenge is, we all know it, right? Most of us could say, oh, it's right. But knowing it, how many of us have learned in the last little bit that knowing it and applying it might be a little bit different? Knowing it, applying it, and being able to communicate it might be a little bit different. Knowing it, applying it, communicating it, and thinking it might be a little bit different, right? These are measured skills, what it is, what it means, and how it works. So we're going to spend, right, for a period of time getting what? Okay, so I'm going to give my 3-minute little commercial on this. Okay, W is write up your, it could be goal, project, intention. What is it? Give language to what it is you're actually working on. Your ability to actually give language to what you're working on is a critical component. The ability, the I, is the ability to identify and assess where you are and what you need. Right? If you identify where you are wrong, what's the likelihood of you creating anything from strength? Right? If you assess what you need wrong, what's the likelihood of you creating what you actually need? Probably not that good. Right? D is develop a game plan to accomplish your goal, your project, from where you are to where you can see. And E is execute with purpose and accountability. Now, there are a couple little things we've got to flush out on this, just so that we're clear. First of all, when we talk about execute with purpose and accountability, what does that mean? What does that mean? Man, you got to execute with purpose and accountability. How do you measure? How do you gauge what's good? Right? What do you execute? What is your purpose? What is your accountability? What are you accountable to? Who are you accountable to? What are you accountable to? What are you actually doing? You're executing your plan. Guys, that's got to come off the top, just like we got to know it's player, starter, captain. The purpose of this is to execute on the plan that you develop, not on the result of your W. One of the biggest conflicts that people have is that we are a results world, right? So we want sales or recruits or promotions or fill in the blank of what it is we want. And the only way we feel good is if we accomplish that particular moment. What happens if you don't accomplish it? If you don't feel good, does that affect the next day? Do you hit the next day harder or softer usually? Right? If things don't go well today, isn't it a lot harder to gear up? Like, unless you have the habit up, right? But what happens, guys, is that we execute with purpose on the plan, which is why identifying, assessing where we are and what we need is critical, because that's how we get good at developing a plan. Does this make any sense? So conceptually, this is important, but functionally, it's important, because what most of us don't do is we don't take the time to give language to what we want. So if you don't give actual language to what you want, what's the likelihood of you accidentally getting it done? So now all of a sudden you look, we all kind of know what we want, but if we don't know clearly what we want, there's no way we're going to clearly get it. Now let's say we know what we want, but we don't actually figure out where we are. We think we're further than we are, or we think we're closer than we are, to what we want, right? Objects in the mirror look closer, or right, may appear smaller, right? Right, we're all, right, oh, it's right there. Or, oh my God, it's so far away. But if we don't actually know where we are, can we really gauge how long it's going to take us and what we need to do? But most of us don't take that time to give that language. If we know what we want and where we are, if we can't actually articulate a plan, I'm just going to go try. If you can't articulate a plan, what's the likelihood of you being concise and efficient in what you're actually trying to get accomplished? Is there any chance that you accidentally say it efficiently or do it clearly? And so if you don't have a plan, but you actually want to accomplish it, you have to, the execution, you have to be excited about the result because you don't actually have a plan. So the only way you can feel strong is if you get it. Now you bring in the third principle of Main Street Families, you get validation from figuring out yourself. You're like, yep, I got that handled. And we just keep spinning. Now, if you are a musician, an artist, an athlete, and your job is to perform, then maybe you don't need to do this. Prince might not have needed to do this. Right? Passed away this week, right? It's important in some of our lives and, you know, some of the different things, right? One of the most talented musicians this world's ever seen. Right? If you ever want to understand the strength of Prince, look up the awards for Purple Rain, the album. They rank them. He did, like, it's crazy. He played every instrument on that album. He sang every note, backup, lead, support, all of it. He produced it, he engineered it, all of it. Right? There are people who can just do that. Now, huh? Boston did that, yeah. So, not one guy. Did he?
Yeah, first Boston album was all one guy.
Oh, wow.
You said there were a few people.
There are a few people that can do it.
He didn't have a band until he had to watch it.
Oh, okay. So we've got that, and there are talented people. There are folks that have that ability, right? And the reason why, look, but if you're in a business, if you want to build pens, right? If I go into the box and I want the pen to feel exactly the same, right? That means I can't go in and have it has to be the same red. If I do this and it's orange, there's in my mind there's something wrong with the pen. If I do this and it's blue, there's something wrong with the pen. If I do this and it does that, there's something wrong with the pen. I need it to do that. Right? You're in a business of distribution. An entrepreneur is we're creating something and then we want to be able to build it at scale. Which means how it happens here, it can happen in Albuquerque, it happens in Chicago, it happens. That makes sense? You're an entrepreneur. You guys are learning how to build businesses, which means if we don't have language to explain this to yourself, how are you going to explain it to somebody else? And if you can't explain it to somebody else, how are you going to get somebody else to explain what they need to accomplish? If you can't identify and assess where you are, how can you explain to somebody else where you are? And how can you explain to somebody else how they can identify and assess where they are? I just have a really hard time developing plans. I'm just not good at that. Well, if you can't get good at it, how can you teach it to somebody else? And if you can't execute on that plan, how can you teach it to somebody else? Now, we've all survived at least 18 years in this world. We've all done all of these things. These are not new concepts, but it's on purpose. Does anybody have any questions about this? Now, graphically, I want to make sure that we understand something. How many of you like this concept, this IMIC concept, right? As an opportunity to explain, an opportunity to understand, right? The ability to have this neutral assessment of, right? This is where I am. Now, can we get from here to here in one step? Have we ever been able to get from where we are to where we want in one step? And yet, how many of us still get caught up emotionally in I want to be here, and if I'm not here, I'm constantly frustrated? Isn't that crazy? Like, we're adult human beings that have been through lots of things, and we still fall for it. I talk to people all the time, God, I'm just not where I want to be. Wait, really? All right. The challenge is we can't get there, but we can see something from where you stand, right? You can see God, right? You can see changing. You can see growing. You can accomplish certain things. We have that ability in whatever it is. If we attack from our I am to our I see, we accomplish our I see, we stabilize it, we have a reset I am. Guess what? The moment we have a reset I am, we can reset our I see, we can attack that, accomplish, stabilize, we have a new I am. I see, okay, we accomplish. It's the only way we've done anything. You don't look very excited about this. This is like, So, why are we talking about this? Because these are the exact same thing. Your W is your IC. Your identify and assess is your IN. Your D is the game plan to get to and from, in the direction of your I want. And then you execute. It's the same thing. It's a visual representation of how you apply why. I'm going to explain this one more time. Your IC is your W. Why is your IC your W and not your I want? Because this is your next step. Now you set your IC in direction of your I want, but we can't attack our I want. It's too far. But we sure as heck can get language to what we can see. What can you see? W. What can I see? This is what I want. This is my next step. This is the project I'm actively working on. It's in alignment with my bigger projects, but it's the next step. Identify and assess where I am. A neutral assessment. Guess what? You are where you are. Well, I don't like where I am. Okay. I'm really happy about where I am. Okay. That's great. It's simply a fact, right? So I got on the scale. I got on the scale today, and I'm back at a number that I wasn't because the Ty went birthday dinner. Like this week, we've gone out to dinner a couple times and had a lot of sodium and eating and just kind of chilling. And I got on the scale, and I had just gotten to a place where I'm not like, and I'd gotten down, and then I started lifting, so I put on some weight. I got there, and I had a number. I'm like, I'm not going to get there. And I got on the scale today, and I was at the number that I wasn't going to get to. And I'm like, oh, hell no. In 3 days. Well, because I didn't actually get to where I wanted to get to. I had just gotten under where I was going to get to, and then I kind of popped back up. And I'm like, oh, hell. All right. Guess what? Am I happy about it? No. Am I sad about it? No. I'm fired up, but there's a charge to it because I love adrenaline. I like games. But the reality is that if I'm like, I never was going to get here, does that give me strength and power? No. It simply is. Now I can be apathetic about it, or I can let it decide to say, look, I have where I want to get. I can't get from where I am to where I want to get this week. What I can do is I can attack this week to get from where I am, right, and be able to move back in that direction. That's a game. Am I going to get there? Is it taking longer than I thought it was going to take? Yep. Guess what? Oh, well. Have I had progress? Yep. You know why? Because the plan we're running works. The habits we've created are on point. And if the habits are on point, everything else is an inevitable result. Right? If we eat what we're eating and we exercise the way we're exercising with the habits that I've got, right, I will get to where I want to get to. It's inevitable. Right? That doesn't mean it's necessarily easy. Right? I lost weight and then I probably put on about, 3, 4, 5 pounds of muscle, right? Because I wasn't doing anything, and all of a sudden my shirts were ready to go through it. I'm like, okay, so on one end I'm like, wow, this feels good. The other end I get on the scale, I'm like, son of a bit, and so I'm in this quandary. Right? Those are it's still frustrating, but it's not destructive. Does that make sense? So we identify where we are. Then it's okay. What plan? What level of attack do we want? Do we want to go batshit crazy? Do we want to just consistent as easy? Do we want to be able to grow? Is it not important? Right? What level do we want? I have a very particular goal physically to get to because I want to put worrying about it to bed. I want to be able to go for a week, right, on a birthday week in terms of what's going on. I want to not worry about it at all in the middle of the week and at the end of the week. And so I'm like, okay, if I get a little bit lower than I probably need to be or should be, but I can get stabilized there because we're going to travel and do a whole bunch of stuff. You can fix a bad week, but I can either fix a bad week in a good way or fix a bad week in a panic way. And I'm like, I'd rather just be like, oh, okay, here, let's go fix it rather than the oh shit bomb, right? So, does that make any sense? Right? So this is what? Anyone have any questions about these two tools? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Here's what I would like for you to do on your piece of paper. So I would like you to write 1, 2, 3. You're going to need space. Right? You're going to write in between. Right? Equal space. You can use multiple pages if you want. And here's what I would like. I would like you to get wide on one Primerica project that you're actively working on, one work project that you're actively working on, or school, or house, and one family project that you'd like to work on, or that you're working on. And so, take some time, right? We're going to do one. Let's start with the Primerica one, right? But I want you to get your head around and take a couple minutes, and we're going to talk about the Primerica one when we're done, right? So we're gonna pull some people and have them participate, stuff like that, so we get this clear. But take about 5 minutes and really spend some time and figure out. And if you don't understand, or if you're stuck, raise your hand. I'll come over and we'll chit chat. Remember, the more specific your W is, the stronger you can identify and assess it in relation to that, the easier it is to develop a lineup, the game plan so that we can execute it. Robin had a good point on the W. So in order to set your IC, you have to have your I1, right? So you're like, okay, I want to get my security, I want to pass my 6, right? Which is where that game plan is, right? But is your I6, is your Series 6 for David, is it your IC or your I1? Or Felvira, is getting your Series 6 your IC or your I1? If you're just starting and you haven't passed, you haven't opened your window, you haven't done any of that stuff, are you actively working on that, or is that further down the line? Right? Getting your securities license might be your I1, but it doesn't mean that it's your IC, what you're working on this week and what you're working on actively. Does that make sense? And so the ability to give language to both is critical. If you think about this, right, the reason this was done this area, what area you're working on. That's your W for the week, but it's in alignment with what it is you're trying to get accomplished. So you want to be able to give language to both. I'm working on developing my baseline 30. So right now my IC is I've got the next 10 people that I'm going to see, and I'm developing the conversation to go. one of the things that we're finding is it's really easy to keep this stuff general. And the more specific your W is, the more likely your actions will follow to it. Right? So there's a bunch of people that are taking their securities, and it's right, I want to pass this, and the plan is I need to study. Well, the challenge is, does I need to study actually, is that yes, we take for granted we need to study. But are you clear on what you're actually studying and where the goal, is there an accountability? Can you stay accountable to what you're learning, where your pieces are, and what's going on? No, we've got to be as clear, the clearer we can do. If you think about your plan, right? Your plan, think about it in a checklist approach. Right? If you think about the plan that you're putting together, if it's in a checklist approach, if someone gives you a checklist at work and says, okay, here if you've got to build this table, right? I bought this thing at Office Depot and I had to put it together. Right? Well, they come in instructions. The instructions are checklists. Now, there's not real, you don't actually have to check the list, right? But you take slot A and put it in tab B, and you use, screw 1, and you go through. That's a checklist. Did you do step 1? Did you do step 2? Did you do step 3? So I want you to look at your D right now and ask yourself, is this in a checklist form? Could someone else, if I was enlisting accountability, could I hand my plan to somebody and they could say, okay, let's review it. Okay, yep, did it, need to, forgot about it, need to. Or would they go, so you were able to do all this stuff? And you're like, yeah, and you're like, okay, right? I need to study 3 times a week. Okay. I've got to get annuities down and understand the 3 different types of annuities, and here's where I struggle because this is a concept that I'm struggling with. Right? So if that's it, now all of a sudden, so you have a better understanding of annuities. Well, what are the 3 kinds? Bam, 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 bam. Now all of a sudden there's a clarity, there's an opportunity for accountability on that plan. Right? If it's, I want, my goal is to be on 6 appointments in the next 2 months or in the next 2 weeks. Right? I'm going to go through this. Great. What's your plan? Well, I've got this. I've got to work with my bullpen. I've got 3 people on my now list I'm going through. I've got 7 frozens that are close. Right? I'm working that plan. And so now there's an accountability that can be functioned with. So you can think about the D in a checklist form. And so when you're identifying and assessing, you're identifying and assessing in what's going to help give you the guidance to develop the plan that you're at. And so the cleaner and clearer you are on, the more specific on where you are, the easier and the clearer it can be on what you need to do. And the clearer on what it is you're trying to get accomplished, right? Right? So, I want to be able to open my window for my Series 6. Well, that's not actually true, right? I want it, right? If you're at that place, I need a 65% on Kaplan, on the Kaplan exam by, right? Because that's the action. Yes, we want to open our window, that's the line, but the action, the project you're working on isn't I want to open my window, is it? The project is, the work and activity is on I've got to get at least a 65% on this exam. Now, the inevitable result of getting a 65% on the Kaplan exam is your window's open. That's the inevitable result. Does that make sense? But if opening the window is the objective, then you're not directed on, then it becomes this, I've got to learn this, I've got to learn this, I've got to know enough to take my test. But how do you know enough to take your test? And so you can get caught up in all sorts of stuff. No, you need a 65 or 70 on, right? In Robin's world, you need a 75 in order to take the test, right? So as soon as your window's open, now we've got to go from a 65 to a 75, right? Through this process. So the clearer you are, well, I'm getting 58s to 60s. I accidentally got a 65, I guessed on 6. Great. You accomplished what it is you want. But now we got to get you ready to take the test. Is this making sense? Okay. So take a little bit and anyone want to share? Anyone have any before we go through? Anyone have any questions about this?
It's not exactly a question, something that's discovery and it's actually true. Because in thinking of why is that IMIC, when I put the W down, which was whatever that next step was, or that goal was, or what I thought it was, once I identified and assessed where I was, I found that I was going back up and constantly changing because that next step might not have been what I thought it was right then.
Perfect.
So I was just wanting to share that.
That's perfect because that's a skill. So thank you, Sue. Because getting wide is a skill, right? The concept of wide is a skill, but W is a skill all by itself. I is a skill all by itself. D is a skill all by itself, and E is a skill all by itself. And so what happens is, what Sue's talking about is, right, she's actively working on her I skill in conjunction with everything. Because all of a sudden it's like, oh, right, this is what I want, I'm developing my IC, I got it, now I identify, holy crap, I'm actually here. Shoot, I thought I was here and I'm here. Well, that means there's one more thing I think I got to get done because I don't think I can get to there. I can't get from here to there. I got to get from here to here. Okay, let me do this. Now, this might be a small step. It could be a big one, right? But it allows us to figure that out because if Sue doesn't do that, she's in conflict. Because if she's trying to get to here from where she thinks she is, but she doesn't, let's say she's missing she's missing an Allen wrench, and she's trying to put that together. She's got everything else together, but she's missing an Allen wrench. Y'all ever tried to put something together with a screwdriver instead of an Allen wrench? Man, that's not fun, right? So she's got everything. She's got the ability, the capacity, she's got the tools, she's got everything she needs but an Allen wrench. Well, an Allen wrench isn't a big thing. What she's got to do is go back to her desk and get an Allen wrench. But if she thinks she's all set and she leaves and she goes and gets geared up, she ain't putting that thing together. So that's a really big understanding of where you are, your ability to pay attention to where you are. Yeah.
I'm gonna.
No, I'm good.
My thing was the accountability part.
Okay.
And where to write it in. So I wrote like for my primary one, I passed 63. But then as I was going down, I said, I don't feel the accountability in my plan. So I added a deadline. Do I write that in the W or do I keep it
in your W?
Okay.
Write it in your
That's
W.
why I put mid.
Right? Write it in your W. But with the accountability, what you get to do is why that deadline and who are you enlisting into? What's the purpose for it? Right? There's lots of things that get touched. Right? We ran the baseline coffee contest was designed for something, right? Because we wanted to put that in. And all of a sudden people are like, oh God, I gotta do more, I gotta get more, right? And we start building that stuff.
Yeah, so an important piece of accountability. So time has a lot to do with purpose, right? Doing it on purpose, doing it in a specified period of time. Accountability is the main about saying, who am I enlisting in my life to support me in accomplishing my plan because we can do more together than we can, right? Whereas most of us actually do create a plan and we don't tell anyone about it, right? And so
We don't want
whether
anyone to
or
say,
not we're
"Oh, you're
accountable to it. And so I connect accountability to being coachable. So it's saying, who are you going to enlist, right? When are you going to check in, right? So a great example, right, would be Wendy, right? In Wendy's list, one of her accountability points is checking in with me, right? Depending upon why she's working on right now. So one, she's enlisted me. But by being coachable, it's not just saying, hey, Robin, want to let you know I'm doing this. It's saying, okay, and I'm going to seek direction, love, and correction, and apply it. So who are you enlisting in your life, and how are you enlisting them to keep you accountable to accomplishing excellent?
And some of us enlist the world. Some enlist individuals.
Yeah.
I enlist the world.
Yeah.
Like I don't share my personal life with very many people, but I share what I'm working on with the world. Like, and usually I share my mistakes with the world. I'm like, we completely screwed up this up, but we're doing this and this and this, right? I tell everybody, right? Because I'm like, I'm gonna lean into it. because I'm lazy historically, right? I am so good at procrastination, I can teach it. And a lot of people are like, but I don't look like it. Man, I screw off all the time. Like I have built-in screw off time. Right? It's just part of where it is. I got my time where I got to do certain things, and I'm just like, mom comes in, it's like, was this a West Wing day? And I'm like, yeah, kind of. Like, because I understand what I got to do, like on different things. Like there's times, like we were laughing, we're working on some new stuff. She's like, how are you going to do this on Diet Coke and Lemonheads? I'm like, I don't know. Right? Because I'm entering Diet Coke and Lemonhead day, right? Where I'm like, oh God, I gotta Jones a little bit as to what's going on. I really have to have a little box and ration it, right? Or something. But what's that?
Iced tea.
I don't know. Not the same, right? I just might smoke crack, right? Either one, Diet Coke, Lemonade, and crack, one of the two, right? But it allows us to kind of piece this together. So the execution is where the fun is. If you allow it to be fun. If we understand, and this is the really fascinating part. Most of us feel frustration when we identify where we are and where we want and this gap. This is a sense of frustration and angst because we're not where we want to be. And so every time we think about our I want, there's a sense of frustration and angst because it's easy to feel like we should already be there. Does that make sense? I don't traditionally and historically feel that sense. Why? Because I understand at this point in my life, I can't get from here to here. But man, I can have some fun attacking here. And as soon as I accomplish this, man, I'm like a little kid in the candy store going, man, I got to reset this, and we're this much closer. Where do you think the good news came from?
Literally, right? And releasing that frustration, because you can put your energy, right? You have a finite amount of energy. You can only put your energy in one place at one time. And so you can put your energy in frustration, or you can put your energy in the good news and move to the next step.
And it's spent. The moment we put it in lack, it's gone. And unfortunately, not only is it gone, but it creates a hole. And so you actually dig a hole that when you're done being frustrated, what do you have to do? You have to get out of the hole. So now it takes energy to get in the hole, and it takes energy to get out of the hole. What if you just took that energy, the same amount of energy, and attacked? Does this make sense? This isn't like touchy-feely, like rub crystals. Like this is business of people. Like this is real stuff, guys. It's funny. Yesterday was a big day. So guys, you guys know that Robin's got her consulting firm and Shift 52. And for those of you guys that aren't sure what's going on, is so Team Access says we're going to deliver the tools and resources. Right? There's this group of people, right? We've got Main Street families that are in this place, and we're building this way, right? And what we're doing is we're providing access to the thinking and doing, the language and the tools and the mindset, right? And we walk into a room like this, and you guys are like, wow, I gotta learn this, and God, they keep driving me crazy, but it sounds important, but it's a Saturday morning, and I got it, and there's 8, 12, 15 of us, so like, they keep telling us this is going to be good, but, and we don't do this very often, but I'm going to do this right now because we're at a point where we have an opportunity to increase our doggone intensity and our urgency and understanding what's going on. And the stuff that's happening right now, guys, is so what Shift 52 does is actually works with that. From the corporate side that says, okay, right, the folks that have developed a lot of the habits have created a lot of success. But what most of them haven't done is they haven't acquired the language. And so the repetition, the duplication, the ability to transfer, the ability built for speed, the ability to check and calibrate and recalibrate with cleanliness, because that's what we build, is language for speed. Right? WIDE is about language for speed. The scouting report is about language for speed. Right? Assessment is about language for speed. Right? The IMIC is about language for speed. The sustainability plan is about language for speed. About clarity and speed. So we can be on the same page, we can adjust, we can calibrate, and we can grow. We can adjust, we can calibrate, and we can grow. We can build, we can transfer, we can teach, we can learn, we can go through this. That's what this is all built for. Because there's 70 million families that are stuck here, and we are not going to solve the problem by ourselves. And so we need to grow, and we need to grow fast. This isn't built for us to have 60 people in a room 5 years from now. This is built for us to have 60,000 people in the organization 5 years from now. That's the speed we need to grow if we're going to fundamentally make the change that we're talking about. And some people look at me and they're like, well, that's insane. That can't possibly happen. Well, Art went from 87 to 200,000, and he had to build a financial service company across the country that had no backbone or infrastructure. If he can do it on a crusade, and his crusade was buy term, invest a difference, why can't we do it on a crusade where we're leveraging a $3 billion financial services company, and the crusade is Main Street families don't have access to the entrepreneurial skills they're going to need, because we went from a gregarian community, farming, to industry. And now we're going from industry to creation. And so everyone is farmers, we're owners. In industry, they're employers. In creation, they're going to be entrepreneurs and owners again. That's the American cycle of what's going on, and they're not prepared. We're not prepared. And so we have the ability to prepare. That's what this is. And so if Art's got the crusade to solve 70 million families because of the life insurance industry, why can't we change the world? Because there's the biggest need now on people and how they think, and they're going to be responsible for themselves. Because no one's telling them where to show up and what to do. They're going to say, hey, we're going to bid this job. You guys all want to eat. You're all in this. We're going to bid this job. You tell me what it's going to cost, and you get it done, and we'll pay you. Well, the one that's right, if one of you is really good at the opportunity at the work, but one of you is better organized and able to capitalize and able to do it and able to leverage, the other one's going to get the job. That's what's coming. That's what this is. Go with me? So someone's like, oh, so Robin had her first and sat with the CEO and the CFO of a company and put together a training module kind of on what's going on. And the CEO and CFO were like, well, we want to see what you're doing, and had some, right, they did a first COO, right, the Chief Operating Officer, the CEO, and they're like, she was telling her a little bit what they're talking about. There, some walls came up and was like, whoa, before you do this for some of our folks, we want you to do it for us. So, okay. Does the presentation basically the concept of everything we're talking about, the introduction of it. And at the end of it, the CEO was like, so how are we going to get not just our salespeople doing this, but everybody? Because everybody needs to do it. I've got 3 different projects that are going on. We need to be able to do this with everybody. Like, this is so important. Like, how do we do like, and essentially sign up, because you need to, well, she does a quarter by quarter training, blah, 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 blah. We'll say, they will be a client every quarter for at least the next year. In a 2-hour conversation, a significant amount of capital will be infused into Shift 52 because of what we're talking about this morning. By seasoned entrepreneurs that have raised $10, $12 million for the 3rd round of funding, that have a fully viable company, that are using the principles and paying for a significant amount of money per person for what we're literally doing this morning. And the fun thing for us is some people are like, well, why are you doing that? We're doing that for 2 reasons. One, it gives us access to a different group of people. 2, they're paying us to build more modules to get all the things done, because this is where our heart and our drive is. And so we're like, okay, we got to get really clean on this because the standard expectations. So we do the work here, then we get clean and we come back and do it here. The things we do here, we're doing there because we want to solve this problem with you. But what does it mean when the company's going to spend $4, $6, $8, $10,000 per person to learn this stuff, and we have a hard time showing up on a Saturday and doing the work? Guys, in the next 90 days, we are going to get this stuff put together, and every one of your people get access to all of this stuff for free. You get access to learn and train and develop and to become a teacher and a master of these entrepreneurial skills 18 months from now. You will have everything we've got on point to be able to grow anything you want to grow. Hopefully you'll want to grow with us. How long do you want it to take before you got this stuff down? Why are we jumping into talk and sticking? Why are we fighting this? What about our history as individuals gets us so dependent on staying where we are? When we've got the tools, the resources, the opportunity to fundamentally shift everything about what we want, economically, emotionally, spiritually, we've got the tools and resources to completely redefine everything about what's possible in our life. And we're choosing to crawl in the mud. Why are we begging you to learn this shit? Will you please take some time and figure out like the most simple principle we have so that we can get the further stuff down? Can we spend another 3 hours on a Saturday on shit you should be doing 58,000 times a day in your life so you get this shit behind you? We're at that moment. And I'm sorry, but I'm frustrated right now. I'm frustrated this morning at the amount of time we spent an hour on this. That's an hour we're not talking about growing and development and changing the people we're going to talk to and how we put 50 people on your team and how we grow your cap reserves and how you get great at the sustainability plan and how you develop that stuff. That's an hour we're not doing on that. But you all tell, oh, I want to be big. I'm going to change my life. I won't do this. I'm frustrated. And I'm mainly frustrated because I don't know why you're not frustrated. The first 30 minutes of me explaining this stuff, it was like you guys were bored. And I asked you, I'm like, are you guys all okay? And you're like, yeah, we're right here. And then I'm like, okay, in my head, David, I went, they're bored. Maybe they got it. Maybe I did an unfair, unreal identification and assessment of our skill set. And so maybe I'm having a elementary conversation to advance people. So they're bored. They're annoyed that I'm having this conversation. This was what was going on in my head. And then we did this. And we are not advanced on this. Which means the boredom was incredibly misplaced, in my opinion. Guys, sorry. I don't really, there's a really big part of me that's excited. Because I don't want to lose my shit very often, but I also love a place that I can actually do that. You know why? Because we're big boys and girls. And I'll use every tool in my toolbox. We're usually nice and positive and loving and helpful, but every once in a while we get a kick in the ass. We're gonna get it. We gotta have the full spectrum. We are not playing to what this is. Look, something I would have said 7 years ago, and it's fighting me. I'm fighting right now. So I'm going to say this because I need to get it out of me. I'm going to say it very calmly. And I am not designed to say this as a threat. I'm choosing to not have this taken as a threat because I'm scared of this. Because what I would have said after a meeting like this, assuming probably exactly what I would have said is, guys, if you aren't going to figure this out, I'm going to go sign some other people that want to do this thing. We're going to find a group of people that want this. If you want to, and I go down this, I will leave your ass in the dust if you don't want to. And that's not what I want. And that's not what this is. We've created a space for everybody, a place for all of us. And so if it takes time, it takes time. I'm frustrated and I can understand. We have misaligned goals and expectations with us. I'm okay if we want to take our time to develop this. But what we can't say is, Sears, count on me. Because the moment you say, Sears, count on me, then I'm asking you to play at a very specific level. I'm not asking you to work harder than me. I'm not asking you to be more committed than me. But if you're telling me to count on you for my family, because you know what, if I tell you you can count on me, you know what that means. You have any doubt what that means if I say you can count on me? So where the misaligned opportunities might be is in our language one more time. Because maybe I misassess what count on me actually means. And maybe that's where my frustration is. Because maybe I realize that we didn't do a good job again in language, and I get frustrated. That's a neutral assessment, and so I'll let it go. It doesn't do me any good, and I get frustrated in the moment. And say, maybe we have to figure out what count on me means. You want to change your life? This couple will be here. It takes 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. I will not do this again for you. This caught me off guard. And so if I offended, bothered, or scared any of you, I'm truly sorry. Because I want to make sure I create an incredibly safe place. Because this really is a place for anyone and for all of us. And I'm frustrated. And even if that intensity and intention isn't for you, please do not mistake the power of business. The impact to your life. These tools, these resources, these concepts will revolutionize your children, their lives, their future, their economics, their profession. The reason why we're going to spend so much time on this is the true value of why we look at you is here. Because most people aren't clear. They're not clear on what they're trying to get accomplished. They're not clear on identifying where they are. They haven't really developed a plan. They don't understand accountability and execution. And so if someone comes with us for a period of time and they learn these skills at their job and they apply them in a relatively short period of time, a large number of them will stick their head up in a leadership role. They didn't even know they're doing it. And their bosses, supervisors, and managers will recognize that there's a shift in them because they're just getting clearer. When challenges come up, they articulate the solution faster. They're able to develop a plan and execute on that plan with some authority. Those types of things will make them more money at their job. We actually want that. Why? Because they can learn it here and master it here. Now what happens is, these people, after they finish their top 10, they go in entrepreneur training camp and they're learning the security. So this skill will go towards their security, which will be really important. But ultimately, we're building to their baseline 30, aren't we? You see, what happens is when someone goes through their baseline 30 and they talk about the fact they're through entrepreneur training camp and they're learning these skills, and someone says, well, has it helped? What's going on? If you talk about the impact to to your Primerica business, in their mind, that's a disconnect. But if you talk about the fact that the skills that you're learning and how it's applied not only to your business, but to your work and your family, then you have the ability to give an impact conversation and be able to tell the stories about that opportunity. The credibility of what you're learning is tangible to them. It becomes more real. You learning how to be an entrepreneur and starting your own business doesn't necessarily seem real to them right away, because they never pictured you as an entrepreneur. They never pictured you as someone starting your own business, let alone in financial services. But if you're learning these skills and you're building your business and applying it to your work, and you can give language to that, all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, that makes so much sense. I can see how that can help. You're building credibility for your business, for phase 2 and phase 3 of the baseline. When you go to your family and they go, what are you working on? I'm working on this. Oh, you're gonna be an entrepreneur. Yeah, I'm learning these skills. It's funny, I already got a promotion. I already got a new job. I already got a $10,000 a year raise. At your job? Yeah, I thought you were learning how to build your own business. I am. I'm learning the skills to be an entrepreneur. I'm applying them and mastering them at my job because I've got to grow my sustainability plan. What are my skills? What are my sources? And so we're mastering all those skills there because I realize that most people can't identify where they are, give an assessment, develop a plan, and then execute it. Man, I'm doing this. We're applying all this stuff, man. It's unbelievable. Well, are you going to leave your job? Yes. Why are you going to leave your job? Because I have no way to get financially free in one generation of my job. So my job's paying me to learn how to develop as an entrepreneur. But if I stay there, I'm going to work until I die. And there's nothing wrong with that because we got a plan to save, we got a plan to retire. But man, I want freedom in my life. And the only way to get free is to own. And so I'm leveraging my job in order to get free. And you're having that conversation. And rather than it being argumentative, you have the ability to enlist them into your support. We didn't just make this crap up. But if we're going to bring our beta team in here and we're going to talk about the fact that why is the critical component tool that they're going to need to be able to give language to the skills, the development, everything they're doing, their ability to explain their baseline, and our leadership team can't do it or doesn't think it's important enough to master it, what happens when they show up? And we're like, hey, this is really important. And they get into a conversation with Billy here, who's been here a couple years. They're like, so is that why thing? Oh, yeah, it really helps. Well, how? Can you give me an example? Well, yeah, like I'm going to get my, I want to get my securities. And so I focus on studying and then I study. And they're like, well, that doesn't sound like the 2-hour meeting I was just in. Oh, maybe it's not as important. If you don't think people are like that, watch. Hey, how excited are you to get your license?
Very excited.
Why?
Because it's going to help me in the future.
Do what?
It's going to help me get money that means I can focus on other things and really help me
How long do you think it'll take you to make some money?
in 10 years.
My first month license, I made $4,200 in primary. My second month license, I made $3,900. My third month license, I made $3,600. Did you know that? Did you know that was possible? We had the same contract, the same license. You know how I know the impact of leadership and culture? We have a new guy who's excited to take his test so he can take his next test so that someday he can make money.
Interesting, you said 10 years.
Versus if we had, so let me ask you this, if this was 1 year from now and we had 18 people in the last 6 weeks pass their test, go on their first 21 days, average helping 6 families and making $1,500 part-time and finding $500,000 of assets, if that was the average from 18 different people over the folks that just got licensed, what do you think your answer is? So are you excited to get your license? Yeah. What do you think your answer is? Shit, these people just bet I'm gonna go make $1,000 like in the next month. Right? But because no one in the room is pursuing results in an active way, no one's writing up on a consistent basis, and no one is like collectively, right? Tangible results and growth isn't the priority. You don't even use it as a measurement. We're in business. We might want to fix that one day. Guess what? We can't fix that if we don't fix this. Not here. Other offices don't need this, but we've chosen a very particular path. Our very particular path is this. We need an influx of people in the roster. We run them through our system protocols. We plug them in. We run them through top 10. We get things cranking. We run through the system. And then this system transfers to game day player through our starters. This group of people creates momentum. This group of people sees it. We plug in more folks. They take advantage of the momentum. We run it through the system. And we run it. We have a very particular system. We know exactly how it's going to work, and it's going to run at scale. The dilemma is, if we put people through the door and we don't take advantage of the tools we've got, we never have to tell them. I never had to look at Tig and go, don't worry about going on any appointments at the end of the year. Right? Let's just get you licensed and learn this stuff, and you'll make money next year. That was never the conversation. Bless you. But that's the mindset. I'll make money someday. But I'm going to learn a lot. That doesn't get you out of Best Buy. That doesn't get you taking care of the family. This is a for-profit company. We have the skills and the licenses to be helping 15, 20, 30, 40 families a month right now with the team we have. And we're helping 4. That's 26 families a month that aren't getting helped right now because it's not in our mindset. Well, I'm okay with that for a short period of time because we're developing these game plans. But the second quarter and the third quarter this year, it's not about developing the game plans to develop the game plans to develop. Are we really going to spend all of the year developing them and then trying to learn a couple of them? That's not what we want to be a part of, right? It's a waste of Saturdays. Shit, should we cancel Wednesdays and Saturdays for the next 6 months while we go build all the systems and tools so we don't waste the time? I know this shit. I can learn it. Here's what I ask. Your intentions and your actions. You want to change your life? Then act like it. That's not weird to say, isn't it? Could you imagine coming to a meeting, the person says, hey, you want to change your life? Act like everything's normal. Does that make any sense? You want to change 6 generations of your family history. Just do everything the same. Guess what? Robin and I started 4 companies. Why? We want to change the world. We got 4 kids, family, health, all sorts of stuff. Our time and schedule are nuts. Why? We believe in what we're doing, and we're trying like crazy to put our actions and our intentions in alignment. We're not asking you to work like we work. You have different intentions. We want to change our world and the world. You want to change your world? Great, change your world. You want to make $500 a month? Great, let's make $500 a month. But today might be about, what do you want? I want to change my income, my life, the world, my bank account. I want to make $500. What do you actually want? What's your bigger W? Identify and assess. Where are you in conjunction and alignment with that? I was talking with Ty the other day. We're driving and we're talking about college. We're talking about the business. And this summer, I'm going to put him through entrepreneur training camp. He's going to learn how to do it. And we're going to build some systems for him. And we're going to have him learn the lineup and the language and the sustainability plan so he can give language to it. Why? Because we're in the nonprofit's going on, we're doing some stuff, so we're playing with it a little bit. I'm gonna get him to know that stuff, and he's 12. And then we'll, over Christmas break, we'll reinforce it, and then over summer break going in, right, we'll reinforce it. And by the time he's 15 years old, he will be able to run any training. Why? Because he's going to do Primerica? I have no idea. He's going to be an entrepreneur. Because that's where his heart and his intentions are. I mean, he's got parents that can teach him how to do that stuff. Well, guess what? The conversation's going to be the same. Hey, you want to learn this stuff? Then learn this stuff. Don't waste my time. Don't waste yours. You don't care. I do care. I love you. I want to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. I love you. I want to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. I want to help. I want to help. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want? Identify. Assess. Where are you at, lady? Are your actions in alignment with what you say you want? Because if they're not, then we either have an identification problem, we have a W problem, we don't actually want what you say you want. Isn't that more fun to find out today? You know, seriously, I said I thought I wanted to make 100 grand in Primerica, but you know what? I really want to learn, and I want a safe place to come on Saturdays because I like this, and I want a securities license, and I love to make some passive income. Great. Then let's attack that with vigor. Holy shit, seriously, I actually want to make $100,000 in the next 12 months, but my attitude and my actions aren't in alignment with that because I'm stuck. Great. Then let's develop a plan to get unstuck. We can't develop a plan to make 100,000 yet, can we? If you realize if you identify and assess your stuff, your new W isn't to make 100 grand, is it? It's to get free of what you're stuck in. So then you identify and realize, when my alarm goes off, I forget it. Because that's acceptable. Well, let me develop a plan. Let me list them. Does this make sense? This is how this works. This can change your life. It allows you to get clear and calibrate. If something's not working, you get to figure out where it's broken. It's not about not having things broken. Sorry. Does this make any sense? Was this one of those, I wish I wouldn't have come meetings? I hope not. I don't. Guys, we are so we don't want to do this. And we don't want to do this. We don't want to do it for us. We love you to do this with us. For you. We'd love to show the world how good we can. So, I think that's about all the training we can do today. I don't know if you want to spend some time with security, but we got people coming on Wednesday. Let's blow this thing out. Right? Turn to your baseline. Turn to the 3 people in your baseline that were the furthest down the road, that were the most receptive for support, and ask them, call them and say, I'd like for you to hear something from me. Is there anything you can't rearrange this Wednesday? What is it? Are you asking that question? No, that's what you asked them.
Oh.
Is there anything you can't rearrange this Wednesday night? Not can you come on Wednesday night? Is there anything you can't rearrange on Wednesday night?
So you guys have 25 minutes. You get to decide, right? You dedicate to 11 o'clock here. You want to go study security? Go study security. So we're getting live. We're going to. You want to set up your times for coaching this week? Any of us? Do that. If you want to lead, you have 25 minutes. You decide what makes sense for you to do and align with your intentions. And I'll be mad.
Me too. Love you guys. Oh, I lied. There's one thing. I'm so excited. I'm supposed to start with this. I forgot. So, totally screwed this up, but that's all right, because this is important. I'm not letting another week go by. Because in the past, this will be 2 minutes. In the past, I used to yell superstars and people would say dominate. It was kind of fun, and it ended meetings and all this sort of stuff. We were thinking about it. And the reality is that I love fun. I love having fun. I love a culture and an environment, and it's fun, and in life. And so we're about, right, we've got team access, and we've got access support, and right, and the nonprofit's name is My Access Pass. Like, we're about access. So for us, it's all about
Access.
it's all about
Access.
it's all about come on, it's all about
Access.
So what happens in an end of meeting when I'm like, hey guys, let's remind them it's all about
Access.
Very good.
Yay.
That was awesome.